The streets are saying Triple H can't create new stars, and by the streets, I mean bad faith tweakers and sexually deprived sickos, because when it comes to the future stars of WWE, the forced hot take that Triple H can't make new stars will age worse than Dave Meltzer in a hairdye shortage. It's been 3 years and y'all want a megastar? You want Paul Levesque to just pull a box office draw out of a box? These are wrestlers, not Labubus. Roman Reigns' singles push started in 2014, and he didn't get over the way WWE wanted him to until 2021. Roman Reigns was an 11-year investment by Vince McMahon, and it didn't pay off until year 8. Cody's words and mine. Megastars aren't created overnight, and to expect Triple H to just make another Stone Cold Steve Austin in 3 years is fanatical filth and brain rot from bitter wrestling fans. Fans who are more impatient than ever thanks to the wonders of social media. Today, we're gonna talk about the ridiculous narrative when it comes to Triple H making new stars, and why, whether or not he has created new stars, it shouldn't even be a narrative to begin with. We'll also talk about why Triple H doesn't even have to create a new star from scratch, but not for the reasons you think. Subscribe and Sesotho, my Lesotho. Triple H took over as COO of WWE after Vince McMahon's abrupt retirement in 2022. Vince came back briefly in 2023 before being forced out all over again. And in that 3-year span, WWE built the greatest WrestleMania finish of all time at WrestleMania 40. In fact, let's start there, because WrestleMania 40 is to blame for 90% of the criticism WWE faces to this day. After telling the greatest pro wrestling story ever told, there's nowhere to go but down. Anything WWE has done since WrestleMania 40 is held up to the impossibly high WrestleMania 40 bar. So anything that isn't the greatest thing that WWE has ever done succumbs to the criticism and overreacting claims of the Fed falling off. Wrestlepalooza to me was a disappointment. At worst, I expected the Netflix debut on Raw, which was lit, I was there. At best, I expected Wrestlepalooza to be a WrestleMania caliber show. Instead, I got Clash in Indiana. The good news is WWE is still making more money than ever through broken live gate revenues, Netflix money, ESPN money, and hundreds of millions of dollars of that Saudi money. What's the problem? WrestleMania 40 was generational, but if you're gonna always hold WWE to those standards, you will always be disappointed. WWE is less than 2 years removed from its 2 greatest long-term storylines ever, culminating in one satisfying conclusion. The star-studded finish in Philadelphia was the blueprint for AEW's redneck version of finishing the story. This happened when millennial cowboy Hangman Adam Page out-hicked top skinhead Jon Moxley to win the AEW World title. When Cody beat Roman, ending a 4-year reign, he pulled the sword out of the stone. When Hangman beat Mox, he pulled a belt out of a briefcase. In fact, AEW is dealing with an opposite issue of WWE. After bottoming out for years in a post-punk era, AEW is so bad that anything that doesn't come off like mid-card neo-Nazi cosplay is considered a comeback. Oh wow, Orange Cassidy came out of a dark box. We are so back. Out of here. WWE remains in a boom period from a dollars and cents standpoint. The same can be said creatively after AJ Lee's return spiked 18 to 49 viewership over 80%. After Dynamite couldn't crack 500,000 viewers in a 900-seat building that same week, you're gonna fix your mouth and talk about WWE's problems? AEW has lowered the bar so low that as long as they're not in the midst of a complete disaster, like the Brawl In, the Brawl Out, or a list of grease fires that'll be in an upcoming top 10 list that you too can watch, subscribe, and Sesotho. Anyways, point is, anytime AEW isn't engulfed in a grease fire, it's considered momentum. Any AEW momentum these days has to be graded on a curve. This is not the same company that drew 20,000 people in New York for a Dynamite. Far from it. Having said that, WWE's boom period is the product of Vince McMahon's exit, and more importantly, the Triple H era. Vince McMahon's senile era featured the referee stoppage in 2019, Roman Reigns being force-fed dog food that same year. A dog food spot is bad enough, but then WWE built an entire storyline around dog food in the Outpost cinematic universe. The senile era featured Retribution in 2020, a group so bad they make the Death Riders look like Well, the Death Riders. Vince McMahon deserves credit for ultimately turning things around and setting the foundation for WWE's future. Vince orchestrated the signing and pushing of Cody Rhodes. Vince finally pulled the trigger on a Roman Reigns heel turn. The Bloodline was Vince McMahon's brainchild. WrestleMania 37 was the blackest WrestleMania of all time and featured the first WrestleMania main event between two black women. WrestleMania 38 was the last WrestleMania booked by Vince McMahon. At worst, it's a top 10 WrestleMania. But as a whole, things got so bad during the final years of Vince McMahon that when Triple H took over, he was graded on a curve too. The as long as it's not Vince curve. It's why so many disillusioned WWE fans came back around 2022, and more importantly, stopped watching AEW as an alternative. Triple H took Vince McMahon's foundation and created a dynasty. He was able to lead a 2-year story in WWE without fumbling. Even when Cody lost at WrestleMania 39, which I still think is a mistake, the Triple H era didn't blink. They doubled down on their two best angles to create the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time. Triple H has been at the helm of a newer, better, richer, browner WWE. But no fan base in the world has more nitpickers than pro wrestling. When things are going well, there's a Sickos subreddit somewhere that isn't satisfied. And for all of Triple H's accomplishments as a booker in 2025, the divisiveness of South African Twitter can't help itself. Rome wasn't built in a day. In fact, Roman Reigns was built in 8 years. Vince signed a young Cody Rhodes only to transform him into stardust. After wasting away for 9 years, Cody had to leave, make himself a star on the Indies and AEW before WWE reaped the rewards. Because let's be clear, Vince McMahon recruited Cody Rhodes, but he didn't build that.
You didn't build that.
Vince McMahon didn't make Cody Rhodes into a star by his lonesome. Quite the opposite. Shit, Tony Khan didn't deserve credit for making Cody into a star. All Tony knows how to do is bench top talent and mix and match with wrestling matches. Cody made Cody into a star. Vince came to his senses and the rest is history. Steve Austin had to be the ringmaster before getting over as Stone Cold Steve Austin. Lest we forget the Rocky Maivia disaster before Dwayne Johnson became The Rock. Let's not act like megastars are easily manufactured. That's why they're megastars. 99% of this industry are not megastars, including all of AEW, and they've been around for almost 7 years. That's twice the amount of time that Triple H has had. It's hard to make a megastar, but you could even argue that Triple H has already done this by sniping Stephanie Vaquer from AEW in 2024 after one match on American pay-per-view and making her into the top star of the WWE's women's division 1 year later. Dirty Dominic Mysterio is a 6'7" El Santo. Yeah, I said it, 6'7". Braun Breaker is the future of WWE. So is Jacob Fatu, wherever he is. Africa NXT is on its way, and you cannot convince me that Trick Williams, Obafemi, Jada Parker, and Sol Ruka won't be on the short list of a loaded NXT class. To hold Triple H to the standard of does he create new stars is bullshit, especially after he inherited a nucleus of top talent already in their prime. Walking into the helm of WWE and booking established top guys sounds a lot easier than it is. What, just because you sickos could book basement wrestling with female victims against their will means you can book a wrestling territory? Just because somebody's super talented, that doesn't make it easier to book them. In fact, quite the opposite, as we just saw with Andrade. Phil Jackson should be praised for winning all those titles with Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Shaq, and Kobe. Think of the egos he had to manage to get them all on the same page in separate dynasties. In 2023, the Jaguars basically had an all-star team of talent and coaching, and all they did was fucked around and melted down worse than any team that year, because the Jacksonville Jaguars management is trash. If Tony Khan inherited the superstars and egos that Triple H has to deal with, they would all be on the WWE bench. Roman Reigns and the whole bloodline would be forcing themselves out of their contracts right now. Whether it's making new stars or pushing established ones, the fact that WWE has seen a revival under Triple H should be celebrated no matter what the circumstances. To be honest, the idea of making new stars is overrated in WWE. Yes, top stars are important, but the era of one wrestler making a significant difference in ratings and ticket sales died well over a decade ago. Roman Reigns is arguably WWE's biggest star, and he pops out what, 3 times a year in a year where WWE is making record profits? Triple H can go the rest of his booking life without making a new megastar, but not because of all the money in the bank WWE already has, if you'll pardon pardon the pun. Triple H doesn't have to make a new singular megastar because WWE is the star. Triple H's job isn't necessarily to create a transcendent mainstream megastar. That helps the star more than it helps WWE, and TKO is a whole corporation. Triple H's job as a booker in 2025 is to make WWE, not its superstars, as transcendent and mainstream as possible. WWE is on ESPN and Netflix. The WrestleMania 40 main event will be the stars of an upcoming Street Fighter movie. If a bunch of nerds on the internet and in a basement are upset that there isn't another Stone Cold Steve Austin yet, they can stay mad. Megastars don't grow on trees, and whether or not they do, one top star means very little to WWE's bottom line, which is now predicated on sponsorship and TV deals. WWE is a brand. The more Paul Levesque builds up that brand through great storylines complemented by great matches, the more money will continue to pour in. As a booker, that's Triple H's job. And from a business and creative standpoint, he's doing that job better than anybody ever has. Check out this video and subscribe. Can Triple H make new stars? Who will be the next WWE megastar? Tell me in the comments!